Often fighting a stalling opponent can be even more difficult than finding a highly skilled opponent because they won't allow you to create any offense. Usually they do this by going to both knees or one knee up and keeping their elbows super tight. And if they're a really big opponent, it's very difficult to attack. My friend Sebastian Serpa is a world champion brown belt and one of the top black belt competitors in the world, and he's 143 pounds, and he has one of the most effective systems I've ever seen for attacking a stalling opponent on both knees or one knee up. So it's a great system to add to your game if you have anyone in your gym that's really difficult to attack. So the double sleeve position is one of the most common guards in Jiu-Jitsu. You can easily get to it from closed guard because pretty much any time your opponent tries to open your closed guard, either from the knees or standing up, you can always have access to two sleeves and get to the guard position. Also, you can get to this position if you're just in the grip fight and your opponent's on both knees or one knee up. A lot of times you can just get control of both sleeves and put one foot in the bicep, one to the hip, and fall back to the position. If your opponent is being a little bit more difficult and not giving you the second sleeve while they're sitting up, you can get one sleeve and fall back to a shallow lasso with your outside leg going over. And then often once you're on the ground, he's gonna grab your other leg, and this makes it easy for you to get the second sleeve and initiate the position. If you're on your back defending an open guard, usually people are gonna grab your legs to try to pass, and this is often a way that you can get access to both sleeves. From here, you usually break a grip in between the legs and start progressing to the position. Like when sitting up, if you're on your back and you can only get one sleeve grip, it's often a good idea to lasso your foot over their grip and then break the grip first to progress to the lasso position, and from here you can transition to the double sleeve. Of course, sometimes you'll fight an opponent and when you get the single sleeve, they never give you access to the second sleeve. That's often where collar sleeve systems work well, and I've done entire other videos on that. I can put a link in the description. But this video, we're gonna be going through a series once you get the double sleeve and how to attack from here, which honestly, if your opponent's stalling on both knees or one knee up on the ground, it's pretty easy to get access to. At some point in the future, I'll do a full breakdown on the double sleeve position, but this is going to be more focused specifically on this attack system. All right, so now we're going to look at this system on the mat with Sebastian. But remember guys, if you like the content, the best way to help support the channel is like and leave a comment and subscribe if you're enjoying it.
Okay, so our first attack here is going to be the double sleeve triangle. I'm going to set this up by using my spider hook here to drive John to the right side here. Once his elbow hits the mat, it's a clear indicator for me to unlasso, place my foot right on his hip here, okay? From here, I'm gonna lift my hips up and break his sleeve grip here and throw the triangle. If you go against heavier opponents, it's pretty safe to keep this sleeve until you fully lock the triangle to prevent the stack pass.
An additional point here that I just learned watching Sebastian do this that's really powerful is often when you shoot a triangle versus a big opponent, they fast dump you to this side, and it can be really scary going for a triangle on a big guy. But the emphasis of pushing this really prevents that, right? So if I go here like this and I hit the triangle, when I'm pushing here, he can't create that shoulder force this way to kind of dump me over and pass. So this little detail pushing this out, I just really wanted to extra emphasize on that.
Okay, so often when I go for my triangle here, my opponent can start posturing very high, so there's no triangle here anymore. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring my foot right back to his bicep, angle my hips, and I make sure I get on my elbow here to complete the spider chop sweep.
Another situation you can go for the spider chop sweep or wheel sweep is if I'm out here and I want to go for that first triangle, but he's keeping that elbow really tight so I can't get the foot on the hip. This often brings his base down a little bit to the side. And when I alternate side, I'll swing my leg and I bend my leg to shift onto the other hip here, right? So what happens is he pulls that elbow really, really tight. And now as I shift, I can get a really nice chop over there for the sweep. So what I'm looking to do there when I hit that is just to block his knee and shin from opening wide to catch his base, and I can go here. Now, combined with that, sometimes if he's really tight, then when I go here, he'll open a little to catch his base, and I can go back for the triangle with either locking the leg over the back and kicking up, or doing as Sebastian did with the foot on the hip. Both the wheel sweep to the triangle and the triangle to the wheel sweep together, they just work back and forth great. So this next technique that Sebastian's gonna show, I had never seen before. But in my opinion, it's one of the most powerful sweeps versus strong stalling opponent on both knees. He's been here the last 2 weeks and he's like 64 kilos or 145 pounds. And he's been sweeping all of the big guys in our gym 200 pounds plus with it like nonstop.
Okay, so this next technique is gonna be an entry to single leg X from double sleeve when my opponent is on both knees. So first I'm gonna start by going for the spider chop sweep, okay? My partner's going to defend this by opening up his knees, maybe even keeping his elbow tight so I can't even throw a triangle or finish the sweep. So from here, I'm going to use this space here, bring my foot here. And then from here, I'm going to use my spider hook to drive my partner to the right side here. When he falls, I'm going to use my left leg to catch the single leg X. Okay, from here, I'm going to underhook his leg, break the pant grip, bring the foot right in the inside, and do a technical stand-up.
So a couple quick extra thoughts here. First off, I'm often, when I'm doing this, I have a shallow lasso and I'm unlassoing to do this. And you may have noticed Sebastian's doing a deep lasso. Both have use, and we can go into that in a separate video. But in this case, when you pull the leg out, it's gonna function basically the same. So you can do this with a deep lasso or shallow once you pull it out. So when we go here and we go for the wheel sweep and he kind of opens the base and defends, we come in here, we go through, we catch the leg. And now when we dump him back this way, we want to get that knee underneath to make sure that we can trap this leg in. If I start to do this and he happens to step that leg way back to get out of the position like this, he's often going to re-expose a triangle. So they're always juggling the defense of the triangle threat and not letting you get underneath them. So in this case, we get underneath and we go heel on the hip. Now we could go way more in depth on the options once you're here of pushing them out, coming up, because I can also turn this into crab ride threats. I could turn it into, if he turns his knee this way, I could turn it back into ankle lock threats. And we actually did a video before, I'll put the video in the description, where Sebastian goes into a really powerful back taking system. He uses from here to go underneath the guy. But the purpose of this video is to more understand it from the spider guard position itself. But as you go more in depth in that underneath position, there's so many different sweeps and ways to take your opponent's back or submit them from there as well. So the last attack we're gonna look at here is the shin on shin triangle setup from double sleeve. I've played double sleeve for a long time and I use this attack all the time, but the extra detail he adds into this just completely blew my mind and changes this position so much. He's been using this on all the big strong guys in the gym, so I think you're really gonna like it.
So the next technique we're gonna be looking at is the shin on shin from double sleeve. From here, our opponent is gonna be one knee up and one knee down. So from here, I'm gonna unlasso, bring my shin right to his shin here, okay? A common mistake here is a lot of people will try to lift the opponent's shin. Sometimes it can be very difficult from here because since all their weight is right on this leg. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna stomp here on the floor with my foot and extend my right spider hook to my right side, here. From here, his shin becomes a lot lighter. I can now lift his leg, catch, go into single leg X, and go into a technical stand-up.
So the detail I really want to emphasize here is the shin on shin drive with the foot on the floor. So classically, a lot of people come here and they just drive the leg and try to clear this, me included. I would just drive this foot. But when the guy's really heavy here, it's hard to create movement on that. So the real trick here is this foot on the floor, even though it's in shin on shin position, I'm driving into the floor because it gives me a tremendous amount of force to drive that spider hook out to that side really hard. Once he's out, now it's much easier to lift this up. And classically, you could go for a triangle from here, or the other attack Sebastian does I like a lot is once you lift, if you don't want to go for that, you can snatch the calf really quick and yank it in. Once I get my heel on the hip here, now it's much easier to turn this into a sweep. Even if your opponent's really big and strong, once you're underneath, they can't distribute their weight on you here. So it's much easier to grab the far pant leg, push, come up, or do whatever attack you want.